All right, man. First time in a long time, Detroit Lions won't do a joint practice. Dan Campbell said that seemed like it's been counterproductive. They haven't got what they wanted to get out of it. I don't know if he really alluding to the injury issues they've been having. And it said that they may also start practicing, playing more of their starters in preseason. So, if I had to make an assumption, I think the assumption is starting to become, they got to make adjustments to they practice regiments, right? Check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. So I think this may be somewhat of admitting that, okay, we have, our practice habits have to change, and it may be linked to us having a whole bunch of injuries. I mean, at least he made an adjustment before Brad Holmes did, because Brad Holmes consistently and continues to draft injury-prone player after injury-prone player. So, but, it's good that Dan Campbell did some self-reflection. When we are winning, or we feel like we're so close to, our goals, we start to lose self-reflection. You know what I'm saying? And Shannon Sharp said this all the time. You never accept something in a win that you wouldn't accept in a loss. And I feel like it's the same thing here. When you winning, you still got to look at, where you're vulnerable at and where you can lose at. Even if you feel like you one move away from checkmate, even if it's a 2% possibility that somebody can beat you, you got to be able to make sure you on guard, you can close that gap. So, I think this is a positive step in the right direction for Dan Campbell to say, okay, you know what? I got some shit in my doghouse that I got to clean up. I think these joint practices are counterproductive. I think we're not getting what he did say. We're not getting what we thought we'd get out of it. And, they're getting beat up. They're literally getting beat up, injuries. And, we did not play preseason thing. We got off to a couple sluggish starts. So maybe play a little bit of preseason. I mean, you got your fourth or fifth offensive coordinator, Anthony Lynn, Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, John Morton, Drew Petzing. Then, in between Drew and Dan again, Drew and John, you had Dan in there. So you have five, possibly, if you consider Dan's rebirth, 6 play callers. So, yeah, you got to look at everything. And I'd agree. And then also the practice habits in the NFL, when they do two padded day practices, they were more war ready. And the thing about it is you got to harden the body for war. You know what I'm saying? And really the training for war is harder than the actual war a lot of times. What fighters and athletes put their bodies through to prepare to go into a game, or military put their body through to prepare, those circumstances may not ever be as dire as the training, but it's just in case. And that's why, you see the soft tissue muscles coming up. It's like, okay, we need time to rest. I agree with that. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. Every hit you throw in practice, every blow you deliver to the sled, that prepares your body to prepare for the abuse you're going to take in the game. It hardens the body, but I love the adjustment. I think it's the best thing you heard all offseason. They are basically saying we have a fucking problem with injuries. Let's start to make a transition. Now you got to ask yourself, when is Brad going to make that transition? Because you can be blaming Dan, but it's really Brad bringing these injury-prone people into this organization too. So when is he going to stop taking chances on broken down players? This offseason class, you had the Wanham kid, you had the linebacker. Those are 2 guys that had major injury. McCrary had a major injury. So you had a few guys that had had some injuries. I don't really understand the addiction. DJ Reader was coming off a second touring quad when they picked him up. So you starting to ask yourself, you're hearing guys like Avonte Maddox, who was with us last year, he from the D, he said, in Philly, we'd never do no hitting like that. And I hear people saying, well, the physical practices is for, is why the Lions are such a great physical football team. But if the trade-off is losing, 20 some people, on one side of the ball, I mean, you got to look at that again. But also, you got to put work in. You got to put work in. So, but yeah, Dan has got to do a better job. Brad has got to do his job now. Don't come into this draft with somebody with injuries and all this type of stuff. Nah, get durable talent. Guys, that should be on the top of their fucking draft board, durability. They was talking about grit and villain. Nah, get rid of all them mantras. Come with durability. But yeah, I'm glad, Dan making an adjustment. You had 49ers in the comment section said Kyle Shanahan practices was too soft. And like I said, there is a sweet spot and there is a high and there's a low. If you're not physical enough in practice, you don't practice hard enough, you're going to get a bunch of injuries. If you go too hard, you're going to get a bunch of injuries. And I hear people say, well, fire the strength and conditioning coach, fire the whole department. They ain't got shit to do with nothing. When you drafting guys that's already broken up, it's contagious, bro. You drafting guys with this injury, you picking up this guy with this quad injury, this back injury. Oh, he tore his ACL. He had a spinal fusion. One of them motherfuckers had a spinal fusion that they picked up. Was it the linebacker from Houston? The fuck are we talking about? Didn't you learn your lesson with Anzarike? And when you doing that, ain't got nothing to do with the strength and conditioning coach. You bought damaged goods. You know what I'm saying? You bought damaged goods. You bought the goddamn Bluetooth speaker and the box was like, it didn't come in the box, it was open box. And now you looking for the stand and you can't find it because it was open box. You bought it as is. So yeah, people some old fire, they ain't got nothing to do with the strength and conditioning coach, bro. It got a lot to do with the general manager having an addiction to injury-prone players that he did an interview on one of the new Detroit News and Free Press. But I love the adjustment by the Detroit Lions. Shout out to them. Hellified adjustment, man. It was an adjustment that needed to be made. And if they're going to play some preseason, I'm not mad at that neither. Let them get into a rhythm. But I guarantee you, the minute somebody tweak an ankle like they injured, that he probably calling the dogs right off the field. But hit the link in the description. Check out Detroit Lions top playlist. The first link in the description is the link tree. It said find me everywhere from X, Instagram, Facebook if you need to reach out. Let me know what you girls and guys think in the comment section. Appreciate the love and support. Peace.